In 1989, a budget analyst at the Pentagon was reviewing classified defense documents when he found something strange. A line item in the Black Budget, the section of U.S. government spending that is classified above top secret, listed a program called Aurora. The allocated funding, $2.3 billion. The program description, a single word, procurement. Procurement of what was not stated. He published the finding in a defense industry journal. The Pentagon responded within 48 hours. They said Aurora was a canceled program from the 1980s, a code name for the B-2 stealth bomber. Nothing unusual, nothing to see. But here is the problem with that explanation. The B-2 stealth bomber already had its own budget line, its own code name, its own procurement allocation. Aurora was something else entirely. And what followed over the next decade was a collection of evidence so consistent, so detailed, and so technically specific that it becomes almost impossible to explain away. This is the story of Aurora, the aircraft that cannot exist, and everything that suggests it does. The first physical evidence appeared over the Mojave Desert in 1990. Residents near Edwards Air Force Base began reporting a sound they had never heard before. Not the sonic boom of a jet breaking the sound barrier. Every local knew that sound. This was different. A deep, rhythmic pulsing, described consistently as a skyquake or a storming pulse detonation, that rattled windows, shook foundations, and registered on seismograph stations operated by the U.S. Geological Survey. The USGS initially classified the seismic events as small earthquakes, but geologists analyzing the data pointed out that the wave patterns did not match underground movement. They matched an above-ground source, moving at extremely high speed, in a straight line, westward, toward the Pacific Ocean. Then, in 1992, a North Sea oil platform engineer named Chris Gibson was standing on the platform's deck when he saw a formation of aircraft overhead. Gibson was no ordinary observer. He was a former Royal Observer Corps spotter, Britain's most highly trained aircraft identification specialists, with over a decade of recognition experience. He identified the formation immediately: 2 F-111 escort aircraft, 1 KC-135 tanker, and a fourth aircraft he had never seen before. A perfect isosceles triangle shape, smooth underside, no visible engine nacelles, moving at a speed inconsistent with any aircraft he had ever tracked. Gibson formally reported the sighting to the Royal Observer Corps. His report was filed, acknowledged, and then quietly classified. He has maintained his account consistently for over 30 years.
Aviation journalist Bill Sweetman spent 20 years investigating Aurora for Jane's Defense Weekly, the most respected aviation intelligence publication in the world. His conclusion was not speculative. He documented a consistent pattern of black budget funding that showed a gap, a specific unexplained category of aerospace procurement spending that began in 1987 and continued through the mid-1990s, totaling, by his estimate, over $2.3 billion that could not be reconciled with any known aircraft program. Not the B-2, not the F-117, not any satellite system, not any missile program. The money went somewhere, into something. Then there was the contrail evidence. Beginning in the early 1990s, observers across the American Southwest began photographing and documenting a highly unusual contrail pattern, described as doughnuts on a rope, a series of regularly spaced, discrete puffs of condensation in a straight line across the sky. This pattern is physically impossible to produce with conventional jet turbines. But it is exactly the exhaust signature predicted by engineers for a pulse detonation engine, a propulsion system theorized in the 1980s that would allow sustained flight at speeds above Mach 5. No aircraft with a pulse detonation engine has ever been officially acknowledged to exist, but someone was leaving those contrails, consistently, over restricted airspace, on headings towards classified test ranges.
Here is what the physics actually requires. To sustain flight at Mach 6, 6 times the speed of sound, roughly 7,400 kilometers per hour, a conventional turbofan engine is completely useless. At those speeds, the incoming air temperature at the engine intake exceeds the melting point of conventional turbine blades. A scramjet engine, which ignites fuel in supersonic airflow, can theoretically achieve Mach 5 to 15. but scramjets cannot operate below Mach 4. You cannot take off on a scramjet, you cannot land on one. A pulse detonation engine bridges this gap. It operates on a completely different thermodynamic cycle, detonating fuel in discrete pulses rather than burning it continuously, producing that distinctive doughnut contrail signature. The U.S. Air Force Research Laboratory filed patents for pulse detonation engine technology in 1994. They described it as a theoretical future propulsion system, but the doughnut contrails had already been appearing for 4 years by that point. You do not file patents for theoretical future systems that you have not already tested. In 2013, the existence of a classified hypersonic aircraft program was partially confirmed, not by the United States government, but by a statement from a Russian aerospace official who referenced American hypersonic reconnaissance capability in a strategic context that only made sense if such a capability already existed operationally. The statement was made in an unclassified forum. It was reported once, then ignored.
In 2013, the CIA formally declassified the existence of Area 51. Not its programs, not its aircraft, just its existence. In the declassified documents, they acknowledged testing the U-2 and the SR-71 Blackbird there, aircraft whose existence had been officially denied for decades while they were operational. The pattern is consistent. It has always been consistent. Deny, deny, deny. Then, decades later, confirm. The SR-71 Blackbird was officially denied until 1964. The F-117 stealth fighter was officially denied until 1988. The B-2 stealth bomber was officially denied until 1989. Each time the denial ended, the aircraft had already been operational for years. The question about Aurora is not whether a hypersonic reconnaissance aircraft was developed using black budget funding in the late 1980s. The question is what they replaced it with. Because here is what we know for certain. The SR-71 Blackbird was retired in 1998. It was the fastest aircraft the United States officially possessed. Governments do not retire their fastest reconnaissance aircraft without having something faster. They never have, they never will. What is flying above you right now, at altitudes no radar clearly tracks, at speeds no public specification describes? That question remains open. And it will remain open until the day someone adds another budget line to another classified document. And another analyst asks what it means. Follow for more classified aerospace history you were never supposed to find.